Serious, people have read it who have experienced clinical death and then been resuscitated. Obviously, what if anything did you experience on the other side? It's like sleeping without dreaming, or being put under for surgery where the last thing you remember is the anesthesiologist counting backwards and the next thing you remember is waking up in the recovery ward. Nothingness, which is not the same thing as blackness or emptiness. When I came back I felt very disoriented while also feeling very sure that I was thinking clearly. I kept trying to sit up and get out of bed. Felt like I had a million urgent things to do right at that moment and I kept trying to get up so I could run some errands and brush my teeth. The doctors and nurses had to push me back into bed while saying, "You don't have to do anything. You just died." My sister, a friend of ours, and I got caught in a riptide and everyone on shore thought we were playing, so nobody responded. I swam as hard as I could and fought until I started swallowing water and actually breathing it in. At first, it stung like heck, but then, a peaceful feeling came over me and I remember thinking, well, that wasn't too bad. I guess dying doesn't hurt as bad as I always thought. I felt a profound peacefulness. It was at that moment that my rescue pulled me out of the water and shocked me back to life. That's so weird because I came here to write my experience, but it is identical to yours down to every detail. I even remember peacefully floating down to the bottom of the ocean and having pleasant memories flash through my mind and thinking this isn't so bad. Then a dude on a surfboard grabbed my arm and pulled me up. My dad was clinically dead for 4 minutes last autumn. After a routine biopsy went septic. He's a devout Christian and saw nothing. He desperately wanted to see something, like his mother who died a month-ish prior, or his dad who died 15 years ago, or Jesus, but only blackness. He said it was like passing out, and he awoke to my mom's tears splashing on his face. He asked what happened. You were gone. Gone where? He thought he just passed out. He visited a therapist afterwards, in part, to deal with the depression that came with having no glimpse of heaven. He's still a devout Christian, but it really bummed him out. Some clarity on dad's beliefs. To all of you mentioning the Day of Judgment, we come from a tradition that believes in a time-relative view of the end times. That our fates are known by God alone, but that the separation of sheep and goats isn't a singular event but a predetermined destination. It's complicated, but I liken it to the crack in the universe in Doctor Who. It's rather uncharismatic. His upbringing considered worship to be more of an academic pursuit, and the fact that my grandfather snuck out to sing gospel music as a teen tells you something about it. My dad is progressive from his family's view in that he believed in visions at all and doesn't think that makes you a psycho because of it. Primarily, the depression came from wanting to experience a part of God he struggled with, the unlogical if you will. I'm sure I'll get downvoted, but either way I've always thought about it like this. God wouldn't let you make it to the gates only to send you back to earth. Like a lot of people here have described, even the peacefulness of death and finding out you were alive can be frustrating or depressing. Imagine seeing heaven as a devout Christian then being back on this sin-filled rock. For years I had many theories about the other side, what it looked like and how it felt. When it happened to me it was just darkness, but I did feel really warm. Not a heck joke, lol. I felt like I was wrapped in a soft blanket in total darkness. I was pretty depressed when they brought me back. Dude, same here. I was warm, in total darkness, and everything felt okay. I haven't been able to feel normal since. There should be support groups for this. Absolutely nothing. I was just gone. I was really disoriented when I came to, but over time it actually dissuaded my fear of death. Knowing that I'd already died once and it wasn't terrible at all. No darkness, no suffering, just in existence. It's a comforting thought that there is finality in the end. No tunnel, no light, just nothingness. You cannot feel it in any manner. Switch off in the ambulance, switch on in the hospital. Less than 1 minute of clinical death, according to the doctors who saved me. Crazy. That's how I expect it to be too, but I just can't wrap my head around that switch turning off. Glad you came back. It absolute and utter bliss. I can't even explain how much bliss, but bliss, happiness, relief, utter joy, just everything good. So good that I did not want to come back and was even I got brought back. I have so much to live for, a husband and 2 sons, and 2 dogs, but I still didn't want to come back because it was so great. My grandfather had heart problem and was resuscitated so many times in his life that he had clocked up over 20 minutes of clinical death by the time lung cancer took him. He said in all that time he didn't see, feel or experience anything otherworldly, as he called. No white light, no tunnel, no outer body. LOL, that is so badass. What a stat that is. Like in a sports minutes played. Instead it's minutes dead before you finally die. Hell, you've a trophy. Nothing. It was as if I disappeared. Not even as if I fell asleep. When I woke up, 3 days had passed and I had a tube down my throat with all but a few memories intact. Then again, I did only OD on a cocktail of medication, so maybe it's different for other people. I hope you're doing fine now. 3. I had an out-of-body experience, but the only way I knew it was out of body was because my vantage point changed. It didn't feel like anything, but I was watching what was happening in the hospital room from up by the ceiling looking down. I have no recollection of anything except that I got to watch my resuscitation. I watched people coming in and out of the room. I watched my family. I have a clear view of the room. I was looking towards the foot of the bed. The last memory I had before the out-of-body experience was that I was feeling very euphoric from lack of oxygen, and I could hear them asking if anyone had a pulse, and I thought that was really funny because of course I had a pulse. I could hear them. I was unconscious so I couldn't respond, but I was thinking they weren't great doctors. Then next thing I know, I am watching them from the ceiling. I have no recollection of returning to my body at all. I also had no lights or deep thoughts or tunnels or aha moments. The whole out-of-body experience thing, I can see it happening as a natural function of the brain. I used to always get them when I fell off my bed as a kid. I would watch myself from across my bedroom get up all groggy and sleepy, and get back into bed. Then after a while I would actually wake up and BP that I wasn't yet back into bed and I had to get up again. I had a dream, I guess. They told me I was gone for about 30 seconds. I was standing in the middle of a 4-way crossroad and a disembodied voice asked me which way I wanted to go. I panicked because I didn't have an answer. The voice began laughing, and when I asked what was so funny they hit me with the defib and I was back. Hurt like a bee. I still have nightmares about it sometimes. Man, such a wild mix of responses. I don't remember what I saw, but I remember asking if I could stay and I didn't want to go back. I didn't hear a response or anything. Like I said, I just remember asking if I could stay wherever I was and then coming to on the life flight helicopter. I do remember feeling amazing wherever I was. Like nothing could compare to the joy I was feeling there and the security I felt. Sorry if this doesn't make sense. It's really hard for me to put into words. My grandfather had this happen twice and said the same thing. It was weird to hear when I was a young kid. He said every minute of your day you have aches and pains, worries, etc. in your body and mind. He said as you're dying that all disappears. It was the most peaceful feeling he had ever experienced. I don't know if I was clinically dead, but I assume that's what it was. I had a cardiac issue, and arrested at home and in the ER while in the waiting room. I kept losing consciousness and they weren't even looking at my heart. They were about to CT scan my brain when someone hooked me up to a portable monitor and saw I had a heart rate of about 20, which is basically none. During one of those times, I was suddenly in a place where I was completely aware of myself, but had no thoughts of what was going on with me. I felt no pain, could see nothing but white. It felt like I was in a warm dry cloud. Really hard to describe, but all the chaos of them coding me vanished. I didn't think about my husband, children, or parents. Just, hey, this is weird, where am I? I remember it now extremely clear like it was yesterday. Though this happened in 1996. I've passed out before, and this wasn't that. I've been under general anesthesia and it was nothing like that either. I was resuscitated, and now live with a pacemaker as a result of that day. I was 30 when it happened. Whatever caused my cardiac issues that day never happened again. The pacemaker never fired, and the battery has long since died. Cardiologists say I can have it removed if I want, but why bother? It'll be there if I need one again someday. I understand wanting to keep the pacemaker, but you should make sure your doctors keep an eye on it, and if necessary replace it. I was pronounced clinically dead for just over a minute after a terrible bike accident that shattered and tore away a good chunk of the left side of my face. I remember so much noise and commotion in the back of an ambulance, then silence and darkness. Utter endless peaceful silence, darkness and nothingness. Not a malicious darkness or uneasy silence though. It's really hard to put into words. The only way I can describe it is you don't realize just how much noise life holds. It's like since that day I notice a constant static background fuzz at all times, even in the quietest of quiet scenarios, and this is what I have come to call life's background noise. This sticks with me, I hear it always. I hope that when my time is done and my innings are all over I will be returned to that oasis of silence and serenity. Oasis of silence and serenity. Love this phrase. I didn't die, but after reading all these replies with nothingness, this fits. My dad and I were very close. He died when I was 20. A few weeks after his passing, I came home from the bars and went to sleep. I had a dream that wasn't like a dream. My dad came to me and spoke to me, except there was nothingness. Nothing to see, just blackness. It was like his consciousness was talking to mine. He told me he was dead and he was okay. I could hear his voice and I could hear mine, but I wasn't there in my physical body. Then when I asked him what it was like to be dead, he said he couldn't tell me, but I pushed him. In mid-sentence when he was about to tell me, his consciousness vanished, but I was still there, alone, in nothingness. I remember it very clearly 30 plus years later, and it was not preceded nor followed by other dreaming. I had a heart condition that caused me to flatline for around a minute. Not sure if you would consider that being clinically dead. It happened in front of a cardiologist thankfully, during a tilt table test, and they brought me back. Additionally, I have fainted a lot throughout my life because of a different heart condition. Because frick me, right? So I know what fainting feels like. And there was zero difference. Blackout, darkness, then back again. I wish I could report something cool back, but if there is one thing we humans are good at, it's believing in things we wish were true. Unfortunately the whole white light and all that jazz might be just that. I fell down a black tunnel, but never hit the floor. I heard my dad yelling from a long way off. Then it was just quiet and peaceful. I was floating under my body as my mum carried it down the hall, and couldn't seem to float through the body. I was being pushed along by my mum's body too. Then she turned into my room and laid my body in the bed, and at that point I moved up and over. My parents were working on my body, trying to wake me up and then starting CPR, and at that point I saw a man standing in the corner of the room, looking at me. I came to a few seconds later. There's a recent study that discovered that consciousness persists even when pronounced dead between 1-20 minutes. I've noticed on the majority of answers to similar questions from those who were pronounced dead below 20 minutes often experience nothingness or loss of complete awareness, whereas mostly the ones who experience death between 15-40 plus minutes describe seeing someone they know telling them it's not their time yet. My mother told me about a distant friend of hers that died on a helicopter transfer after giving birth. It was like the latter one. I don't remember all of the details, but here it goes. She wanted to go on but was told it wasn't her time yet, that she needed to go back to her son and husband. She felt happy and calm in those moments. When I was 5 years old I was in a house fire. I was clinically dead and I have memories that I had a strange vision when everything happened. The best way I can explain it was that I had an out-of-body experience. I switched from a first-person view to a third-person view. Then I can describe my vantage point as a camera on a constant zoom out up into the sky and then into space, and basically the speed of the zoom out increased exponentially until I was so far zoomed out that I passed through strange and beautiful colors I could hardly describe at the time. I thought it was heaven at that age. Now when I try and remember it I can describe it as passing through galaxies and nebulas. I believe that my conscience bonded with my energy and it was released from my body to all the energy which is still accelerating outwards away from the Big Bang. I believe that all energy is somehow connected and there are many types and forms of it we don't understand yet. My dad was clinically dead for 25 minutes in February because of a massive heart attack. While he was in it too, he was really out of it and repeated himself a lot. He kept telling us the same story. He said he was walking down a grey corridor with his mother, who passed away in 2002, and described what she was wearing, I believe what she was buried in, and they had the following conversation. "Grandma, what are you doing here?" "Dad, I've come to be with you." Grandma, no son, not yet. You have a wife and children to get back to, and you haven't met all your grandkids. And then she walked ahead of him and he came back to us. We kept asking him if it was a dream, but he said it was so vivid and he could describe very detailed images of my grandma and what they were wearing. My cousin had overdosed on H so many times. He said that when he died the first time, he saw himself running towards the sunset on the beach. It's weird as heck. I was blackout drunk and slammed my head on the corner of my bathroom wall, laying me out cold for an unknown amount of time. I became a mathematical equation. There was black, then white, and I became all the things I had ever learned. My pain disappeared. I heard whispers and sound tones and then came to in an empty room. It was a peaceful feeling of wholeness, but I also stopped drinking the next day. Had a similar experience with black and white and math. My dad coded 4 times. He says he saw nothing. It was just like going to sleep and waking back up, though a lot more saw. I went through the peaceful darkness that was filled with the origins of everything, and out the other side, I zoomed through space toward a huge bright light. I stopped before I got into the light, and there were 2 radiant beings who communicated via telepathy. They radiated pure love and joy and total acceptance. I saw a sort of 360-degree screen open up around me and it fast forwarded through my life. These beings held me in love through the hard parts while I judged myself. I saw what I'd done wrong, what I'd done right, and how to improve myself. I knew the meaning of life. It was all so simple and beautiful. I knew I'd chosen my life, but the beings let me know I wasn't finished, but I had the choice to turn around and look into the light and die, which meant living as a spirit but having to come back to earth as another person, or to go back and continue the path I was on, the one I'd chosen for myself. When they told me what would happen if I went back into my body, I was so excited that I immediately zoomed back to earth on the cord that attached me to earth. So far since then, my daughter has died. I've had stage 3 cancer. I've gotten divorced and started again from nothing. My house was burnt down and was utterly destroyed and I lost everything again. But I have changed. I am a totally different person now, and understand that this world is a place where we learn how to love and grow spiritually. The most important thing, that we are all so loved and cherished, and that we all have a real home to go back to when this is over. I love this. Thank you. Once I was in ICU for more than 6 months without consciousness on ventilator. It's very hard to explain because it was literally nothingness at that time. No dreams, no connection with anything, nor did I had capability to think anything. The first thing that made me aware that I was alive was I could think. When I was 13, I had peritonitis following a botched appendectomy. It was late on a Sunday night and the hospital called in a general surgeon bypassing the incompetent idiot who had operated on me a few days earlier. The surgeon told my parents he had to operate now or I would die. While he was gloved up and doing a rectal probe, my heart stopped. It took only seconds to whip the glove up and do heart massage. What was weird was just before my heart stopped, my perspective changed. My conscious self was suddenly calmly observing the scene from a vantage point near the ceiling at the far corner of the room. I watched the doctors massaging me with a couple of nurses nearby. I could see my mum sitting in a chair with her head in her hands looking desperate. Shortly after that, I found myself enveloped in darkness, then a light appeared at the end of some kind of tunnel. A feeling of peace overwhelmed me. I started to move towards the light but became aware I had a choice. Go to the light and never return, or go back from the light and live. I went back. The whole experience freaked me out to the point I could not talk about it for many years without breaking out into a cold sweat with tears, and it wasn't until many years later I could talk about it following publicity about similar NDEs. It was comforting knowing my experience was not unique. There is no religious perspective in this experience. I was raised without religion and would describe myself as an atheist, although I would love a rational explanation of the vision. I wrote a much expanded version of this for Dr. Sampania, who has been doing the research into NDEs, and he uses my piece in his lectures. And my skin is prickling about it even now, all these decades later. I always thought of the light as rebirth, reincarnation. Choosing to go back could be why many babies are still born. My great grandfather was resuscitated and he said he actually was in a wonderful city place. golden streets, and the best apples in the world. I think it's pretty cool. I wonder why some people experience nothingness, while others experience something. I wonder if everyone actually does have an experience that isn't nothingness, but there's some kind of amnesia like with dreams. The first time, I saw mostly black, just nothingness, but the second time, I saw black with flashes of white, like multiple camera flashes going off. It was very weird, and thinking back on it now makes it seem like a dream. Sounds like the sign of dissolution of the consciousness from the coarse into finer ones when dying. There are several other, but they are harder to notice than the lights flashing. My grandfather died a couple of times leading up to his actual death. I got to ask him about what he experienced after, should I say. He gave conflicting answers in most accounts, although I put that down to how much morphine he was on each time. Once he described seeing his brother who he never got along with. His brother had passed before I was born, but he told me that he was still a bastard. Other times he described seeing fabulous lights and feeling out of his body, whereas other times he said it was just lights out, gone, nothing, like falling asleep and walking up, no consciousness to speak of. In all of his experiences though, he never spoke of seeing any gods, he never experienced suffering, nor bliss. It just seemed like sometimes he'd get a random picture in his head or see lights and other times wouldn't. Him seeing his brother never made much sense. They were never really close as they were 11 years apart, so growing up was never tight-knit for him, and by the time he was old enough to know his brother, he had long since left for the army. When his brother came back from the army, well, he was a bastard. That's what I was told, anyway. Oh yeah, I've just died and seen my dead brother, but he's still a bastard. What a badass. I have a family member that died in the air from a ruptured aneurysm. He said that he woke up in a big open field and could see a shining city in the distance. The city was white and glowing but also had colors coming off it, like it was iridescent. There was a gate. He knew he was dead and he knew that was heaven, so he started running toward it. He could see people but not make out who they were. He was happy and pain-free. Then he heard his wife call his name and beg him not to leave her. She admitted she did say that to him when they were trying to revive him in the air. Upon hearing this, he turned and started walking back the other way. When I asked him if it was because he loved her so much and didn't want to leave her, he said no. I was really disappointed. I wanted to stay, but I didn't want her to be mad at me. It's like when you're sleeping but not dreaming. It's boring, I know, but it's not sad or painful or anything. The actual dying is the scary part. That's why I hope I go down easy like during sleep or an autoerotic asphyxiation sesh. Don't forget the lemon. Anybody else low-key wanna just die for a minute to experience this warm nothing that everybody's talking about, or is that just me? Nothing. I drowned as a kid, but I don't remember that. Later in life I became an electrician. I was working in a high voltage panel, and zap. The panel was supposed to be dead, and was when I checked it, but someone ended up backfeeding it with 600 volt. I remember the initial pain as I was lit up like a Christmas tree, and then nothing. Just like someone turned off a switch. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in the hospital with almost no memory. I could still speak English and Spanish, but I couldn't tell you my name, address, or anything else. One of the other guys on the job had called my brother, and when he got there, he told me enough details about my life that I was able to get the doctors to release me the next morning. Over the next couple of weeks most of my memories filtered back in. I still have some decent sized missing chunks, but oh well. And I went back to work, and I'm still an electrician to this day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.